Let's paint an old raptor mask I own. First of all, I'm gonna remove this hot glue nose ring. I don't even know what I was thinking. Pried it off with some scissors. Got a pretty large chunk off. I got as much off as I could, and it's probably gonna be a bit bumpy, but I'm sure from afar it should be fine. Now I'm gonna go ahead and do a white base coat. And obviously I'm going to be taking a paintbrush, just any random paintbrush I have, and I'm just gonna spread it around. Let the base coating begin. I did a time lapse of this. It didn't take me that long, maybe like 20-30 minutes just to do the full base coat. The brand of paint I used, I'm not exactly sure. I'd have to look at the bottle, but I think it's one of the cheaper brands, and it's just regular acrylic paint that I used. I also painted in the eye whites, the eyes, just to get that done and over with. Now for the eye mesh, I'm pretty sure I found it at Joann's craft store. I wish the mesh was thinner so it would be more of a smooth look to it, but honestly I get really good vision out of the eyes. I'm not too sure what the brand was of the mesh. I don't even know if it had a brand, but all I know is that I found it at Joann's Fabric and it works just fine. So I stuck with a pretty thin base coat. I only did one coat, only because I knew I was going to be using pretty opaque colors once I got into the actual painting part. Now, while that's drying, I'm going to go in and make a quick headshot and a design for this raptor mask. I know I wanted to go for like an Avatar feel. Like, Navi Avatar, because I'm a huge fan of it and I think it will look really pretty. Here I'm adding those classic blue stripes and then those fancy little sparkly polka dots. All the paint I use on this is acrylic. Any acrylic paint, I use a whole bunch of different brands. And I found these little makeup sponges that I think would work for blending in with that gradient. Once again, another time lapse. This one isn't as entertaining only because I'm mixing colors. And I do end up painting the moving jaw on the bottom, that light turquoise color. The color took me quite a while to mix. Turned out well though, I like it. Doesn't show up too well on camera. Now I'm using those makeup sponges and I'm starting to work on that light blue to dark blue gradient. Now that I'm pretty satisfied with the gradient, I went ahead and painted about the whole mask with that secondary blue color. I don't think I'm too satisfied with how the blue turned out on this one, only because I think it looks a tad bit patchy, even though I did do 2 coats, and the color was a bit difficult to mix because of the ratio of the white and the blue that I mixed into it. But I'm sure once I put Mod Podge over it, it'll come together. This is what I got so far. The gradient, I think it looks okay. It's not the best, but it's my first gradient on the mask, and for my first, I think I did pretty okay. Now I'm attempting to add that little bit of the pink highlights that Navi people usually have, like around their lips and their nose, to the mouth. I found that adding the pink to the lips gave it a nice contrast with the rest of the mask, and once I finished it, I think it looked really nice. I knew I wanted to keep the horns from the original mask because they took me quite a while to make them before. and I thought they looked nice on them. So I'm going ahead and painting those. I ended up changing the color of the horns to a lighter, like, pastel blue. I thought that made a nice contrast. Now I'm taking those makeup sponges and I'm dabbing on some yellow paint to the eye mesh. I find that using a makeup sponge prevents from the mesh holds from getting covered up, so I don't have to poke them out with a pencil. And I also did like a little bit of an orange gradient. Now I'm going to go through and I'm going to basically make the pupils of the eyes, the irises, or whatever you want to call them. At this point, I just said screw it and didn't really care if I got paint on the actual mask, because I'm going to be covering that up anyways. Okay, now I'm working on that under eye marking. Honestly, I'm so happy with how that turned out. I think it looks really good. And now we finally get to the stripes. I took some pencil and just kind of marked out where I wanted them to be, just in the general area. I'd say I did about 3 or 4 coats of this darker blue on all of the markings that are on here, just because it really makes it opaque and pop. Wanted to do some extra detail on the teeth. A lot of people are not going to see them, so that's why I was a lot more messy with it and not as neat and tidy. Overall, I think they turned out well if you see them from afar. At this point, I didn't care about putting the pencil down, so I just went straight for it and just painted on the stripes on either side. It's not completely even, but I think that makes it look better, honestly. This part took me a million years, but I knew I wanted those sparkly little speckled dots that Avatar people usually have. Oh, yep, those are fur babies, the babies. This part took up so much time, but I think it was very much worth it. I had to be careful with each dot so it wouldn't look funky, but I'm pretty satisfied with it. And some more dot placement. A lot of these were really random. A few of them were specifically marked out, like this one on the nose. I mirrored it on the other side. And then on the forehead, as you'll see here, I made lines of dots. I will Mod Podge it tomorrow. I'm not doing it tonight. I'm too tired. Let me sleep. And then here are the teeth, which I think turned out pretty well. And then here's the mess I made with all my paint. And now finally, for the last step, we are Mod Podging. I personally prefer Mod Podge as a sealant because it gives it a nice glossy, shiny look at the end. I'm also gonna put Mod Podge over the eyes just to give it that extra coat. And now the reveal! Oh, she turned out so pretty. I love her very much. I might change a few things on her ref sheet design, but I'm super happy with her. And here's some extra pictures. Anyways, thank you for coming on my journey. Goodbye!